But now, to Australia's online gambling addiction. And it's not just the punters who are hooked.
Your Aussie sports sure are built different, just like the PointsBet app. It's faster, easier, unique markets, better offers.
That was NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal encouraging you to gamble your money away. And he's not alone. Free-to-air TV pumps out nearly 500,000 ads a year for online gambling, or an incredible 1,200 ads a day across all the channels and different markets.
Now is the best time in sport with the best app in sport, Tab. We're on.
And if you add in radio and pay TV and mid-programme plugs, there are many, many more, with Australians now losing an average $1,635 per adult each year, according to the Grattan Institute, more than anyone else in the world. So it's no great surprise that a parliamentary inquiry last year recommended unanimously that online betting ads be banned from our computers and TV screens.
Online gambling ads could be phased out in 3 years following an inquiry into its impacts. A new report handed down today found children are being groomed to gamble by ads and video games.
That inquiry last June was led by the late Labor MP Peter Murphy, who found cross-party support for a total ban and claimed the public also wanted one, telling Channel 9...
Australians hate gambling ads, and they particularly hate gambling ads being directed at their children.
And last week, a Redbridge poll confirmed that verdict, with 72% of Australians saying they supported a total ban. So, with MPs and voters on board, why hasn't it happened? Answer, it's not just the punters who are addicted. TV networks are too.
The future of free-to-air television and sport in Australia could be in serious jeopardy if a total ban on gambling advertising is introduced.
Yes, the commercial TV networks would face a big revenue hit if gambling ads were banned, and the government is not game to take them on, with Nine newspapers' Paul Sakal revealing a leaked plan last month to ban the ads on social media and online, but merely cut them back on TV.
Labor proposes a cap of 2 gambling ads per hour on each channel until 10 p.m, and banning ads an hour before and after live sport.
And Labor Minister Bill Shorten was soon out on Q&A to tell us why the government could not go the whole hog.
We've got ourselves in this wicked situation where now some of the free-to-air media need gambling ad revenue at any time in order just to stay afloat.
And other Labor ministers were then echoing his concerns.
We're coming to a point in time where, you know, the ability for free-to-air broadcasters is really being challenged, and so any responsible government would need to take that into consideration.
4 weeks on, we're told an announcement is imminent, and all the signs are that the TV networks have stopped an all-out ban from going ahead, for the moment at least. But would such a ban really be a mortal blow? Veteran anti-gambling campaigner Tim Costello says no.
I think what we're seeing is crying wolf in Italy, Spain, Netherlands, where they banned gambling ads. The broadcasters said, oh, it'll be terrible. They've all done OK. The sport code said, oh, it'll be terrible. They've all done OK. Just like happened with tobacco, which is why we should treat it like tobacco.
So, should the government be braver? A recent audit by the ACMA found TV ads for gambling were worth $162 million a year. But that's estimated to be only 6% of the total $3.2 billion annual TV ad spend. Nevertheless, industry lobby group Free TV warns that regional broadcasters are already on the brink and claims the revenue is irreplaceable, with Seven's chief executive Jeff Howard blaming falling ad revenue across the TV industry last month as he announced a 69% drop in profits, telling The Australian,
our share of that decline was $100 million. So it's a pretty big hurdle to start with when you're looking at how we run this business.
But the government has also been under pressure to hang tough, with former Liberal PM John Howard joining Malcolm Turnbull and former state premiers in calling for a total ban.
Gambling losses are responsible for enormous harm across the community.
And recently, even the founder of betting giant Paddy Power was telling the ABC a total ban is the way to go.
If the politicians and the government want to protect children, they'll go ahead with that ban. If they want to protect wealthy bookmakers' profits, they will go ahead with a partial ban.
We should find out this week which way the government has jumped. But don't forget, a federal election is due next year, and we'd be amazed if the government is brave enough to pick a fight with Australia's powerful media companies in the run-up to the poll. So it seems those ads will still be on your screens.
All the girls here, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have recorded themselves urinating.
Yeah.
And the boys will try and figure out whose flaps made that wee.
Hello, I'm Paul Larry. Welcome to Media Watch. And that was Kyle and Jackie O, Australia's two highest paid shock jocks on $20 million a year, hitting a fresh new low, with staff members at KIIS FM recording themselves urinating in the toilet, then broadcasting the tape at 10 to 8 in the morning.
I don't like this game.
If you can't handle some vag, just step back.
But it wasn't only female staff subjected to this humiliation. Blokes had to perform as well.
Here is staff member weeing number 2.
To then be rated by the newsreader.
I thought that's a 10 out of 10, Pete.
Did ya?
Yeah. Clean, forceful.
Kyle blames the pissing game on his, quote, filthy female colleagues. But he was right out in front, leading the gang. And why the stunt? Ratings, of course, with Kyle and Jackie O losing badly in their bid to conquer the lucrative Melbourne market.
Foul-mouthed, rambling rants bomb with Melbourne's breakfast listeners.
And that was good news for broadcaster Steve Price, who says in his 30 years of radio, he's never heard anything like it.
It is grubby, it is dreadful content. It's not something that should be broadcast on free-to-air radio.
With Price also taking aim in his Herald Sun column, and then doubling down on Sky News, asking...
Where was the communications minister, for example, Michelle Rowland, the mother of 2 daughters, or the female executives of the radio network ARN that put this stuff to air, or ACMA, the government body that is supposed to oversee commercial media on free-to-air? Crickets.
So, how does this stuff go to air, and why does nothing change? ACMA has pinged Kyle and Jackie O 5 times for breaching decency standards, but its feeble penalties haven't even slowed their race to the bottom, as you can see from the duo's tradie versus lady segment that gets contestants to talk about their favourite sexual position, which last week, despite having a dump button and 2 censors appointed by the watchdog, let this comment from a caller go to air.
You're doing them from behind, but you're holding their arms like a wheelbarrow, and then you go to town and just butcher the pussy.
It is impossible to imagine that would be put to air on commercial TV or any other radio network, especially when kids are listening. But it's daily fare on KIIS FM, with Kyle also riffing regularly on group sex and asking an OnlyFans model...
Good morning. You don't have a dick in you now, do you, Annie? What's your biggest number for gangbanging, like letting all the blokes run a train? Like, how many guys have you had to go at once? And are they in every hole, these guys, or is it only one hole?
Gangbang talk at 6:15 in the morning from a pair the industry calls...
the undisputed king and queen of Australian radio.
Crowning them in its Hall of Fame. It is disgusting, it's degrading to women, and it's an indictment of the state of the industry. And the former head of ACMA, the media watchdog, agrees, with Chris Chapman telling Media Watch...
It beggars belief that any responsible broadcaster could sanction this, that any program producer would allow it, and any presenter would be comfortable participating in it.
And he added...
This style of broadcasting is contributing to the watering down of decency thresholds in society.
And even Kyle and Jackie O's former boss, Craig Bruce, who is now a podcaster, is appalled by what he's hearing, telling Media Watch...
I just can't believe how far the boundary has moved to. I don't even know where the boundary is anymore. I'm just assuming all bets are off. If you listen to the show for long enough, there's literally nothing that you won't hear.
So how and why does the media watchdog allow it? Well, the Broadcasting Services Act gives ACMA a range of sanctions, including the power to impose licence conditions on repeat offenders or suspend and even cancel a station's licence. But it rarely uses these heavy weapons and has never gone for the nuclear option. And that is partly the fault of successive governments who don't want a tougher media regulator. But it's not just the watchdog that we believe is failing in its duty. It's also the board of ARN, which owns KIIS FM, because ARN's directors allow this stuff to go to air. So we asked CEO Kieran Davis and the ARN chair, Hamish McLennan, if they condone the toxic garbage they broadcast and if they will do anything about it. We did not hear back from them, but a spokesperson for ARN told us the company loves the programme, which is, quote, well-rounded with high-quality guests. Yes, like that wheelbarrow guy. Adding,
ARN stands behind the principle of editorial freedom for its talent.
And reminding us,
The Kyle and Jackie O Show is Australia's longest-standing and most successful breakfast show, attracting more than 1.8 million listeners each week.
So they're laughing all the way to the bank and clearly intend to do nothing. Time for the regulator and the Minister for Communications, Michelle Rowland, to do a better job. But now let's go back to 2017, to London's tragic Grenfell Tower fire, which killed 72 people in one of Britain's worst modern disasters.
Oh my God, they're screaming!
And remember that back then, two News Corp culture warriors, Miranda Devine and Rowan blamed global warming alarmism for the deaths.
Innocents burnt in the flames of green ideology. You can't overlook the deadly green ideas that contributed to the tragic Grenfell Tower fire in London.
With Miranda Devine claiming in the Daily Telegraph that the fire was turned into a raging inferno by green energy cladding on the outside of the building, put there
to achieve green ticks in the carbon-obsessed British regulatory system.
And returning 5 weeks later to have another crack at carbon reduction mania and say,
in the rush to meet emissions targets, there was barely a thought for fire risk.
Meanwhile, in the Courier Mail, Rowan proclaimed,
the coroner may as well scribble cause of death, climate change alarmism on his report.
Telling Piers Ackerman on Sky's Outsiders,
there's no other rational explanation for why this building went up like a tinderbox, like a Roman candle.
MediaWatch slammed those claims at the time as cheap, nasty, tasteless and wrong. And the final report from a 6-year government inquiry published last week confirms that verdict. The 1,700-page report makes no mention of carbon emissions, green energy or climate alarmism. And nor did the first 856-page report published in 2019. And the inquiry did not even bother to demolish the claims because they were a total invention. With the BBC reporting last week,
the report says the people killed in the fire were badly failed at almost every level by successive governments, companies and the authorities through incompetence, dishonesty and greed.
The inquiry found that manufacturers of the flammable cladding lied systematically and deliberately about the safety of their products, that the installers were incompetent and passed the buck on safety, that bureaucrats repeatedly failed to toughen or enforce fire safety standards, and decades of failure by previous governments, including the one led by Nick Clegg and David Cameron, that pursued deregulation at the cost of people's lives. Green energy does not get a mention. But back in 2017, Rowan made another baseless claim in the Courier Mail and on Sky that environmentally friendly coolant in a fridge appeared to have started the fire.
So it could be that it could be, we're not saying it
could be that the initial explosion was caused by a green refrigerant.
But that was another culture war invention. There was no evidence for it at the time, and the inquiry found the fire was in fact started by an electrical fault. So, have we seen a mea culpa from Dean and Devine in response to these findings? And has News Corp read them the riot act? No and no, with both their false claims still online. Even though Lachlan Murdoch recently boasted of his journalists at the Australian 60th birthday party.
We report the facts, we ask questions, we seek the truth.
And even though Lachlan told the IPA in 2022...
we must arm our young people with the facts and not undermine them with false ideological narratives.
False ideological narratives. That's the one. So, Lachlan, time to step up and show you mean those fine words. If you talk the talk, you need to walk the walk. And finally, to ABC journalist Tim Bowden, who died last week at the age of 87. Bowden was a talented author, foreign correspondent and the first EP of the ABC Radio's PM programme. But for many, he was best known for fronting the ABC show Backchat.
Good evening. Well, it's difficult to know where to start.
In many ways, Backchat was a forerunner to MediaWatch, a twice-weekly feedback show that allowed viewers to vent about Auntie.
I hate this show.
A total wank. I thought I was watching a commercial station. Take it off.
And much like now, there was endless pontificating over whether ABC News and Current Affairs and its journalists were up to standard, including yours truly.
Can you please talk to us about Alan Bond?
I'm calling police. It's wasting taxpayers' money chasing that idiot all around the world. That reporter should be shot.
Or put in the stocks, or strung up by the thumbs, or garroted perhaps. Absolutely charming.
Bowden fronted the show for 8 years, held together by his patience and his knowingly raised eyebrow at the futility and absurdity of his mission.
Unless my eyesight is failing, the K is back to front.
You are not the first to write in about this. Have you had your television checked lately?
For more than 600 episodes, a wonderfully droll Tim Bowden dished up the brickbats and the bouquets, like this one as he neared his exit.
More than one correspondent has wondered how occasional and strangely named correspondent Mavis Frizzletit of Bonnells Bay, New South Wales, has taken the news of my departure. And the answer is not well.
As Tim Bowden said way back in 1993...
I have a sinking feeling Backchat's time will come one day on Media Watch.
And sadly it has, although not in the way we would have liked. Tim was a fine journalist and a lovely man. We'll miss him. That's all from us for tonight. You can read statements from ARN, the ACMA and Chris Chapman on our website. And don't forget Media Bites on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. Janine Perrott will be in the Media Watch chair for the next 3 weeks while I take a holiday. Till then, goodbye.